Weren't stars, they weren't planes, and everyone who saw them felt the same terrifying thing. Those lights weren't just passing by. They were searching for someone. People who lived in Lubbock at the time still lower their voices when they speak about that night. They say the wind felt different, the sky felt heavier, and that once you saw those lights, you never looked at the night the same way again. The story begins on August 31st, 1951. It was one of those warm Texas nights when the world feels slow and harmless. 3 professors from Texas Tech University, George, Carl, and Walter, were sitting in George's backyard drinking tea and talking casually about classes and students. Everything was normal until George suddenly stopped talking mid-sentence. He leaned forward, eyes squinting toward the sky. "Do you see that?" he whispered. Carl and Walter looked up, and there, sliding silently across the sky, was a formation of 8 or maybe 10 glowing white lights, arranged perfectly in a V-shape. They weren't flickering like stars. They weren't flashing like aircraft beacons. They were steady, sharp, too bright for comfort. The strangest part wasn't the light itself. It was the movement. Smooth, perfect, and absolutely silent. "Those aren't planes," Walter murmured, shaking his head. "Planes don't move like that. They don't glow like that." And then something happened that none of them ever forgot. The lights slowed, paused, and then, right above their heads, they stopped moving altogether, hanging in the air like they were alive. A cold gust of wind swept across the backyard. Though the night had been warm only seconds earlier, Carl felt his stomach clench. George whispered something too soft to hear. Walter took a step backward as if the sky itself had leaned down toward them. For a few seconds, the lights hovered, motionless, watching, and then, without any warning, they shot away in a burst of speed so fast that all 3 men staggered backward. No sound, no trail, just gone. That night none of them slept. Something inside them knew this wasn't a fluke, wasn't imagination, wasn't a trick. Something had come close, closer than anything in the sky had the right to. The next morning, the professors tried to convince themselves it was nothing, but before noon, similar stories began surfacing across town. A housewife said she saw bright lights sail silently over her roof like a glowing blade cutting through the darkness. 2 teenagers said their truck engine died the moment the lights passed overhead, and then, as soon as the lights vanished, the engine started again like nothing had happened. A farmer claimed the lights hovered above his field for several seconds. The next day, his cattle refused to go anywhere near that part of the land. Different people, different places, but the same details every time. A V-shaped formation, bright white light, silent, too low, too perfect, and every witness admitted something else, something they tried not to say out loud. When the lights passed overhead, they felt something inside them shift, as if something unseen had brushed past their thoughts. A week later, an 18-year-old boy named Carl Hart Jr. changed everything. While in his bedroom near midnight, he saw the lights again from his window. Unlike most witnesses, he didn't freeze. He grabbed his camera and ran outside. He managed to take 4 photographs before the lights streaked away. When he developed the pictures the next morning, his hands were shaking. The images were clear, far too clear. Perfect white orbs arranged in the same curved formation everyone had described. No blur, no motion distortion. The lights were undeniably real. When newspapers published the photos, America exploded with curiosity and fear. Scientists argued. Skeptics mocked. The military denied everything. People demanded answers, but none made sense. Birds? Birds don't glow. Airplanes? Airplanes don't hover silently. Weather balloons? They don't fly in perfect formation at impossible speeds. Meanwhile, stranger things were happening to the witnesses. Some couldn't sleep. Some woke up at the exact time each night they had seen the lights. One woman claimed her baby was found on the opposite side of the room the morning after the lights hovered outside her window, despite the door being locked all night. A man lost 10 minutes of his memory after seeing the lights and found his car miles ahead, without realizing he'd driven there. People whispered that the lights didn't just appear. They took something with them. Time, memories, peace. No one knew for sure. The U.S. Air Force eventually visited Lubbock, but their behavior only deepened the mystery. They dismissed most witnesses quickly. They took Carl's photos to analyze and returned them with no explanation. They refused to answer questions, except for one sentence: "There is nothing of national concern." But if nothing was wrong, why were military aircraft flying low over Lubbock for weeks afterward? Why were strange radio signals detected near the fields where sightings were most frequent? Why did the Air Force quietly increase security at a base nearly 70 miles away? People in Lubbock knew one thing: something was happening. and the government wasn't telling them what. But there was one witness no one heard from at the time, Henry Caldwell, a maintenance worker. Before his death, he told his son what he'd really seen that night. Henry said the lights didn't just move overhead, they descended, not all the way to the ground, but low enough for him to see something inside the glow, a faint outline. It wasn't shaped like any plane, he whispered. It curved wrong, like it wasn't built, it was grown. But what terrified him the most wasn't the shape. It was the sound. Not a mechanical hum, not a whirring engine, but something soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing, as if the lights were alive. The height of the mystery came on the night of September 17th, 1951. A warm evening, clear sky, people sitting on their porches, and then the lights returned. Slower this time, lower, more deliberate. Hundreds of people saw them. Dogs howled. Radio stations cut to static. Streetlights flickered. The air felt electrically charged, like the world was holding its breath. And then, for nearly a minute, the lights hovered directly above the town, silent, unmoving, while Lubbock fell into total darkness. Power off, homes dark, cars dead. The only things glowing were the lights above. People said it felt like the lights were choosing something, or someone. And then, just as suddenly as they came, they vanished. The power returned instantly. Everything was normal again, as if the blackout had never happened. Decades passed. Explanations came and went. Scientists still argue. The military files remain locked away. And every few years, someone in or around Lubbock reports silent, bright lights moving in impossible formations. But the witnesses of 1951 carry something no one else can understand. They say those lights didn't just show themselves. They noticed the people who saw them. Some felt watched for weeks. Some avoided the sky for the rest of their lives. Some still dream of glowing white lights pausing above them, waiting, as if the story never truly ended. And if those lights really were searching, then one question remains. What happens when they finally find what they were looking for?